Hey, Slash.
Hey, Lewis.
Living the Dream. It's the most recent album with Slash, you, of course, and Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. This is what Classic Rock Magazine is saying. It has high rock attitude, but contained within songs and performances that are a lot more intimate and highly charged than you might expect. Do you read that stuff, or do you stay away from it?
No, I stay away from it as a rule.
As a rule?
I figure if it's been printed, if it's not positive, it's not going to do you any good, and if it is positive, it's not going to do you any good.
That's a good attitude.
It's just out there, and yeah.
So I love the album. It's called Living the Dream, and when I think about that title, I think about the joke where someone's miserable and someone says, "Hey man, how's it going?" They go, "Oh, living the dream."
That's exactly what it was. It was a tongue-in-cheek stab at domestic politics, not just domestic, but also global social political events and just everything that's happening right now and was happening when we were actually in the studio. So that's where the title comes from.
I love it. It's great. And the album is great. You are still very much a household name, and I mean that like with kids these days. They still know who Slash is, and there's something to be said for that because rock and roll is in such like an interesting place right now. And I think you've done that because you've adapted to the times. But are there still old school things that you've held on to from the past, like when it comes to sequencing an album? And I say that because I heard Call of the Wild, and I go, oh, this is how you open an album up.
Well, I mean, I didn't know if that was an old school thing, but I suppose maybe I haven't been listening to enough like new rock and roll records, but I always thought that an album has to have a sequence that keeps you engaged throughout the whole thing, and the first song has to sort of like grab your attention. Yeah.
Yo, my attention was grabbed with that like stop and go intro, and the tone was interesting because I'm used to like those big soaring Slash tones, and I love that it starts off with this kind of like dead sounding stop and go guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an invitation.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's actually become the show opener as well, and so it's been working in that capacity really well.
So this is a third album, correct, with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, and you know it only gets better. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the way that this has been progressing since the onset. I mean, because when I first met Miles, we were doing that solo record that had all the different singers, and there was a real spark there. And so we put a band together, and in that first rehearsal with Brent and Todd and Miles and myself, I was like, this is there's a chemistry here. And so we went out and we just had a blast touring and running, globe-trotting, just playing together as a new band. And then we went in the studio and did Apocalyptic Love, which for us at the time was a huge accomplishment. We just ran in there and we had the songs and we had a great time making the record. And then moving on to World on Fire, it was definitely a forward-moving, sort of a positive kind of evolution from the last one to that one, and I think we've done the same from World on Fire to this one, and it just means that the band is developing and is getting better as it goes, as opposed to peaking at the very beginning and then just sort of slowly working its way backwards.
Yeah, it only gets better. Can we talk about that 2010 record just for a quick second? Because it was so huge, and it holds up. It's so great. But it's changed in a way in the sense that, we've lost Chris Cornell and we've lost Lemmy. Have those songs changed for you? I know you still played the Lemmy song live.
Yeah, well, the Lemmy song is very poignant for me because I was really close to him, and because he sang that song. He wrote that song for the music that I presented to him, and I was apprehensive. I was scared to give him the music to see if he could come up with something or if he was interested in doing it. And it was really cool because he put his whole heart into it. And that lyric that is about how he was so chemically balanced that there was no turning back, that the doctor said, if you stop, you're going to die. You have to continue doing this. So it was sort of Dr. Alibi said, just keep doing what you do, because his body was so used to it, adjusted to the amount of whatever that he was putting into it. So I just thought it was a great statement, very honest statement from one of my all-time rock and roll heroes.
Some real bad habits. You better stop right quick. I said, doctor, that's real bad news. Don't know what I'm gonna do. Doctor, nothing wrong with
And with one of the ironies about that particular song is before I worked with Lemmy on it, I had originally presented it to Chester Bennington. And so I'd forgotten that we had done this, and I got a phone call from my engineer who engineered all those demos back then. And he goes, hey, we have this version of what is now Dr. Alibi, but it was called, I forgot what it was called. But Chester Bennington had done a version of it, different arrangement, but same music.
Wow.
And it never got released because there was legal issues with his other band and all that kind of stuff. And it just got shelved, and I forgot all about it. But the song is particularly telling about his state of mind at that time. And if you were thinking about what ended up happening, it all sort of ties together. So it's a very significant sort of recording of Chester at a certain point. Anyway, so I thought was very interesting. And then with Chris Cornell, Chris and I have known each other since I was a huge Soundgarden fan back in 80, I guess it was 88, 89, when I first heard them, and they had Big Dumb Big Fuck, what was it called? Big Dumb Fuck, or whatever that song was called.
Okay.
And they had this little EP. And I thought, wow, these fucking guys are great. And so we had the pleasure of touring with them in I think it was 1991 or something, maybe later. But we didn't know each other very well, and there was a lot of different issues between our band and their band on the road, stemming from some different things. Anyway, that session, getting Chris to sing that song and him coming down to the studio and writing that lyric and everything, it was really it was about his daughter at the time.
Sometimes the world tries to slap you, and it seems to love watching you fall. I won't lie to you, it's gonna happen. You got to pick yourself up and move on. Promise me you won't let them put out your fire, put out your fire.
But it's an amazing song, Promise.
And he was just so, it was the closest we ever, really got to really hang out and bond for, a couple days. And so when I hear the song now and I think back on that, you just miss the guy so much, because I just at that time had really gotten a chance to know him. Prior to that, it was always in passing.
Well, it's such a wild time. I mean, there's just so many ghosts now on the radio, and it really changes things, and it really makes the hairs on your arms stand up, and you really think about, a lot of things. I want to talk about this. You're an honorary board member for Little Kids Rock, and you help music programs in schools, and it's so important. I teach young kids how to play guitar, just beginner guitar, and I was teaching a kid the Crazy Train riff the other day, and you could see him, he was focusing so hard, and he was trying to get it, and he just hit one bad note, and it was like tears, and he hit the wall, and he put the guitar down. And I just want to know, let's jump in the time machine to when you were, picking up the guitar. I know you played bass first, but you know what I mean? There's lots of stuff that people don't think about. They see the giant crowds and stuff, but they don't see the kid in his room that's playing for 6 hours. And what was your drive when that was happening for you?
Well, okay, just to straighten one thing, I did start out with the idea of playing bass, but I never actually physically played one.
Okay.
I went straight from the idea of playing bass to suddenly realizing what lead guitar was, and then I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Off I went. But I remember, working on stuff, learning a song, or jamming on whatever when I first started out, and it still happens where you work on something to get it right. It is so draining to do it over and over and over and over and over and over again, and the hours that you spend doing it. and like you're trying to get past that block, which is keeping you from doing it right.
Yeah.
And then getting so frustrated because you can never do it 100% right. Then you have to put it down for a minute, and hopefully when you pick it up again and you're reinvigorated or whatever the expression is, and then all of a sudden that perfect take happens.
That's amazing.
That's
It's spiritual.
life. I mean, but those are the kind of things that make it such a fucking joy to play an instrument. You know, is those mountains that you have to crest, you know, and those challenges, and then, you know, finally defeating them and moving on and all that. I mean, I suppose it's like that with anything in life that you really are passionate about. You know, if you wanted to be a race car driver, if you want to fucking be great at video games, you just got to keep passing these tests. And in music, there's plenty of those.
Amazing. I love it. Hey, before I let you go, just any recent obsessions, you know, be it food, shows, tunes?
Well, I mean, let's see. I mean, really, for me, the latest thing has been the last Alice in Chains record. I think is fucking awesome. And then the last Gary Clark Jr. record and the last Queen's record, Queens of the Stone Age record. I think are all really fucking great. Brilliant. And also, you know, Tom Morello's fucking Prophets of Rage record is fucking awesome. And there's an artist named Zealand Ardor. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but it's really one guy, but he's got a band, and his last record is amazing, and the one before that. So. Okay. Yeah, those have been. So I've been home for a little bit, so I've been driving around listening to that in my car.
Beautiful. Well, we can't wait. July 21st at the Grey Eagle. Slash with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. New album's out now. Live in the Dream. Slash, thank you so much.
I can't wait. It's going to be a fucking blast. Thank you.